Coming up next on YCU News, New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan's request for a special legislative session is granted. Federal government extends a grant deadline to help with hazardous cleanup from Tropical Storm Irene. And a Vermont resident is charged by police with unlawful mischief and probation. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCU, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region and central Vermont. News, sports, weather, public affairs, and all that's happening in our area. The news on YCU, your local view.
Good evening. I'm Rose Spillman. Thank you for joining us for this Wednesday edition of YCU News. New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan's request for a special legislative session has been granted. Earlier today, Hassan said the state's Executive Council approved the request by a 4-1 vote. Lawmakers from both chambers will return to Concord to debate on expanding Medicaid in New Hampshire. Hassan said she is looking forward to working with House and Senate members to discuss what she calls a significant opportunity to improve the health and well-being of families. Medicaid expansion also would help low-income adults. Federal funds up to $2.5 billion are available to help expand Medicaid in the state. About 50,000 residents could benefit from reduced health insurance costs if the state expands Medicaid, Hassan said. The 2-week legislative session will allow time for discussion on the possible expansion. The session will begin at 10 a.m. on November 7th. If voted into action by the legislature, more people would be eligible for Medicaid health insurance coverage by January 1, 2014. Expanding Medicaid is a part of the Affordable Care Act. Hassan's request to call state lawmakers back into session comes a week after a panel studying Medicaid expansion voted for its acceptance. Vermont state officials report that the federal government is extending a grant deadline to help with hazardous cleanup from Tropical Storm Irene. Under the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, federal emergency management officials say the grants can cover up to 75% of cleanup costs. Tropical Storm Irene battered the East Coast, especially Vermont and the New York State, at the end of August 2011. Projects eligible for grant funding include flood-proofing public buildings, replacing damaged culverts, and stabilizing river bankings. Local governments would pay the remaining costs, or 25% of the repair project. Vermont State Department of Emergency Services Director Joe Flynn said towns and cities could benefit from the funding. Saving money in repairs could benefit all who live in a flood-hit area, he said. For more information about an application, call 802-241-5258 or go to http://vem.vermont.gov/mitigation. Deadline for application is November 18th. Legal procedures are underway for 36-year-old Seth Carrasquillo. The Dummerston, Vermont resident is charged by police with unlawful mischief and probation. Around 7:15 p.m. October 14th, police say Carrasquillo had been drinking when he smashed up a friend's house on Falls Brook Road in Dummerston. Carrasquillo also damaged the motor vehicle of another resident at that Falls Brook Road location, police said. Carrasquillo was scheduled to be arraigned in Windham District Court yesterday. Prior to that, he was held overnight in jail at the Southern State Correctional Facility in Brattleboro, where he regained sobriety, police records note. Now we have the YCU weather forecast for the Connecticut River Valley and Lake Sunapee region. Tomorrow we have a few morning showers with temperatures in the upper 60s and a low of 48 degrees. Friday we have a high of 63 and lows around 40. Saturday the rain should clear up with temperatures ranging from the low 40s to a high of 62. Sunday and Monday we have temperatures in the mid to upper 50s with lows around 36 degrees. If you're in the Sunapee area this Friday, head over to the Middle High School Music Room for a piano benefit concert in memory of Rich Chappelle from 7 to 8 p.m. featuring Sam Weinberger. Here's a look at some of our local high school sports scores. I'm Rose Spillman for YCU, your local view. Good night.